Hi there. Right, today we're going to have a little look at how to make cloaks for your miniatures. Now, I've been doing these on most of my Space Marines ever since I started back in February, and I've got okay at them now. Okay to the point that people are asking me how I do them myself. So I figured instead of writing out a message or doing a sort of step-by-step guide, I would actually do a video and show you how it's actually done in real time. So you can see here, this is one that's already been made and primed, and you see just behind it, it's got ones that are unprimed but are still ready to go essentially. So you can see here that lots of them have different cloaks. It's not the same cloak over and again. Each one is individually tailored to each miniature. So it is a time-consuming process, and to actually make the cloaks themselves, they take quite a bit of time. It can take about 24 hours really for it to cure and to solidify. So obviously be patient with this process. It's not one you're going to probably get straight away, but certainly have a bit of a play around first, have a bit of fun, and once you start getting the hang of it, yeah, you can obviously start doing more intricate sort of material inlays, like, you know, backpack possible cloaks, or you know, just material hanging off weapons, or material just hanging off their face or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to show you how I managed to do these ones. So you're going to need a few bits and pieces, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so here we have everything that you're going to need to make the cloaks that I've made on the Marines at the back there. So the main ingredient is obviously the green stuff. Now you can pick this up off eBay and Games Workshop or any good model store or hobby shop. It's not green at the moment because you have to mix it, but I'll show you how that is done and how much you're going to potentially need. So you need that as your main ingredient. You're going to need something to cut it out, so that's a good old scalpel, but obviously scissors will do, it's absolutely fine. You're going to need a oil brush to oil your area and possibly the miniature that you're going to be working on. You need a saucer, so you can actually have an area to work the cloak onto prior to it going onto the mini. And you're also going to need some oil. Now the oil is to keep from everything sticking to you and to the plate and eventually the miniature. I have not used this occasionally and have lost, well, made some mistakes using that. So make sure you use the oil prior to putting anything together, otherwise it will adhere to it, and obviously if you haven't got it into the right shape, you could have some problems. So yeah, there's only a few things you need. You need some oil, a plate, a brush, the green stuff itself, and something to cut the green stuff out. Okay then, I think that's pretty much everything. We're going to go on to the first step of how I actually make a cloak. So today I'm going to re-cloak this Space Marine. Obviously I've got a cloak there, but I want to show you how I do this and how it all goes down. So first, we need to start with our green stuff. Now we need to cut off a tiny little section. Now you can obviously cut off how much you want. You can use the excess to do something else with. You can add to it if you cut off too little. But I found about just under a centimetre, about maybe 8 mils of length of this sort of stuff will be absolutely fine. So I'm going to cut that off right now. Okay, so this is how much we're going to need. So it's obviously covered in some plastic, so you need to remove the plastic first, so I'll do that now. This plastic obviously needs to go into the bin or to recycling because it can just absolutely disappear. So I'll put that away in a second. Right then, so you'll have a little ball of blue and yellow stuff. Oops. And now you need to knead it into a green ball. So essentially you've got about 3 minutes just twisting and turning it, much like how you'd knead dough. You just want to basically just keep blending it in together, so you can even roll it out into a tube and roll it onto itself and just keep going. But essentially you're going to keep going until the whole thing is green, which I'll show you in a second. Okay, so we have now a green ball. So we now need to flatten this out. Now in this process you could have felt that it's probably got a bit sticky, your fingers have picked up a little bit of tackiness now. So this is why we need the oil, to prevent this from sticking to the plate and indeed sticking to the miniature later on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the saucer and we're going to give it a little bit of oil so it doesn't stick to the green stuff when it starts to set. Oops, apologies, I'm using a very weird mount today. Excuse me, Mr. Space Marine. Okay, so we're going to start with this plate. I'm going to start with a little bit of oil, just going to sort of paint a sort of a broad blotch on the paint, on the palette, sorry. So you're going to take your green blob and you're just going to squash it down. You can put a little bit of oil on your finger so your finger doesn't get too stuck to it. Just put it over the top of it and you're just going to squash it out nice and wide. Okay, you can turn it over. You're probably best to slide it off plate rather than peel it away, because the peeling will stretch it out to a point where it gets too thin, as you can see just there. So I'm going to squash that down again. And what you're building here is, if you want to do a very, very straight cloak, that's absolutely fine. What I would recommend is to do a very generic one at the beginning and then cut off, make it straighten up a bit later. But essentially what you're doing here is you're looking for sort of a teardrop-esque shape. So the teardrop bit is going to be where your cloak's clasp is going to be, and at the bottom is obviously where the flowing cloak's going to be. Now, at this point in time, it's far too malleable and soft to actually start moulding. So I'm going to leave it for about half an hour to an hour where it's going to start tacking up and start solidifying. And it's going to be a lot easier to mould around the miniature. So we're going to come back in about an hour's time when that's all solidified. Okay, we'll see you in a moment. Okay, so it's been about half an hour, 45 minutes now, and the green stuff has started to solidify a little bit now. So it's a little bit less floppy, should we say. So I've actually done a little bit of extra work. I've remolded it to a better shape, and you can see there's some air bubbles forming on it. So to get rid of those, you just need to sort of slide them out from underneath, and you can pop them, and you just want to get that nice and clear. Now you'll also notice that when you work the green stuff, you'll be adding your fingerprints to them as well. So a way to get around this and to get rid of them as you're working with it is to add a little bit of oil to it. And then you're going to sort of, just going to sort of polish it with your finger. And that will get rid of most of your finger lines. Unfortunately, it's not a perfect technique, so you will have some, but it's nothing that you can't paint over later on or possibly sand down later on. Okay, so we need to start developing this cloak now. So I did forget another vital bit of toolage is going to be some sort of cocktail stick, some sort of way to manipulate this bit. So what I've used this looks like a kebab stick. Yeah, this is a kebab stick I use on my desk. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a little look at it, and we're going to try and raise some points, and we're trying to fold some over. So we're going to start making our cloak. So the first bit we want to do is essentially we're going to put where the actual cloak hood's going to be. So this is going to be around this area. Now you can just cut this off and then you can remold this and then you can put it over the top and it gives you a line. But what I tend to do is fold over the part and sort of flatten it down. So it gives you sort of an overlapped area, and also it doubles up as well. And then what you do is you just sort of give it a sort of a semicircle, just pushing it around, and you're just basically building out a or where the hood material area is, where the shoulder pad's going to go. So you can see there, I'll try and get a bit closer, that I've already started to do some sort of fold lines. Okay. Now at this point as well, you can also start to think about the flowing of the cloak and which direction it's going to go in, and how the material is going to go. So a good way of doing this is to raise the cloak up slightly with your with something like that, I say the cocktail stick, and you're just going to put some sort of air holes in it, and then you're going to fold it over. Now, you're going to leave this again for another half an hour, but what this does, it sort of permanently sets this flowy part into your cloak. Now, it does get a bit fiddly, and I am doing this while on camera, so apologies here. So it's kind of like eating here. Right, so I've just made these two bits here, and you can see they're starting to spread out towards this cloak. So I'm not going to take it any further at the moment. I'm going to leave it for another half an hour while that sets in that position, and then next time we see you, we'll be able to start putting this onto the miniature and start forming into a cloak that's going to wrap around it and look like the wind's sort of howling around whatever miniature you're going to be using this on. So we'll come back in about half an hour and we'll start putting this on the miniature. Right then, so we're about ready to put the cloak onto the miniature. So I'm going to be putting mine onto this marine's sort of corner pad here. So it's going to be coming out from where that sort of collar bit comes out. It's going to go around the pad. It's going to tuck in just in that sort of shadow area, and it's going to flow around the legs. So that's the idea. Let's see if we can actually make that happen. So you've got to be careful when obviously you're handling your the cloak that you just made, because obviously you just spent all that time getting it to the stage. It'd be terrible to mishandle it and actually destroy it. So obviously take very much care sort of peeling off. So I'm going to use the knife just to sort of pull it away, because I have put a lot of pressure on it while building it, so now it has sort of stuck slightly to the plate. Now all these little marks you're making while trying to peel it off, you can obviously remold those in the last processes, but here we go, we're just taking it off. Okay, so it's ready to come loose. Ooh, that's very flimsy. Right then, so we're going to start adding this. So I'm going to start by putting the first bit on his collar and then finishing the second part of his collar at the back there. So working around all the contours of the miniature, and I'm just going to pop that in there. Okay, so I have my anchor points now. So it looks fine really, but now you want to sort of play around with the wind element. You want to make it look like it's got some direction. So you can play around this however you like, but I generally have it whipping around the back. So I'm going to just use this to manipulate it to go round. Obviously keeping everything in place. Now, there's going to be obviously some lines that you want to create, some fold lines. Now, the way I use this is, again, using a scalpel, but using the flat edge rather than the sharp edge. And I just make little crease marks like that. And you can sort of have it flowing down into where the clasp would be. But essentially, you're going to be working this with the paint later on anyway. But yeah, there you have it. Essentially, this is the premise of how I do all my cloaks. It's a very simple and messy technique, and that's basically how I roll. But I will improve over time, but for the time being, this will do in a pinch. Now, this will take about 12 to 24 hours, depending on how much oil is on there and how thick the actual consistency of your green stuff is. So leave it a good day for it to basically solidify. Now, the main problem is once it is solidified, you've put a lot of oil all over these, so you've got to give them both a bit of a bath after this. So a bit of cold soapy water. You don't want it too warm, because if it's too warm, it might make the green stuff malleable again, and it might start becoming soft and start moving. So you want to use cold water. That would actually just make it, you know, it might shock it and make it a bit more solid. But you just want to get all the oil that's on this out of it. And then that includes all the creases and all the bits inside. Now, once it solidifies, you will be able to open those areas up and get water in there. But I recommend just dunk it into a sort of cold or soapy bath and just do it like, yeah, clean it in there. So after 24 hours, you will have something as solid as one of these ones. And like I said, it'll come off quite easily. Like I said, I haven't cleaned this one yet, so you can see all the shininess of the oil that's still left over on that one. So that's got to be cleaned, otherwise paint's just not going to stick to it. So you need to wash them off after you've done all of this, okay? So to attach them, you just use a bit of glue or however you tend to stick things to it. And you can do as you want. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is how I do all my cloaks for my Space Marines and for my vehicles. I will be trying to do some more tutorials, and I probably will redo this tutorial. I just want to do this as a starter one for all of those who have been asking me questions, and it's just a lot easier to record them. Have a great day. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye.